Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are in week 2 of Module 5, which, as you can probably tell, is a pretty light week. So I am going to spend the majority of our time trying to unpack in an overview of Module 6. Now, there is a lot due in Module 6, and my screencasts are 15 minutes long, so I will likely not get through everything in great detail, but I wanted to give you an overview so you can just kind of be able to start planning, thinking ahead, and knowing what's coming due. Okay, so we're actually a few days into week 2 of Module 5, so you're likely familiar with what's going on. But this week, our focus is on nonfiction and informational reading. And what we need to do, of course, is reading commentary number 9, which is on nonfiction. And this post is going to be where you are choosing 2 nonfiction or informational text books. You can choose from these 2 lists that give you lots of different examples of books that you might want to choose from. And yes, they're both working, which is always a good thing. So pick 2, go down to your library and choose which 2 you would like to do. And then in your reading, of course, you're going to tell us about both books, your title, author, the grade and age the book would be best suited for, and then type of nonfiction. So in our informational nonfiction reading for the week, it talks about the 5 different types of nonfiction. We've got narrative nonfiction, autobiography or biography, humanities, history or social studies, STEM, and adaptations. So one of those will meet the criteria of each of your books and describe what type of nonfiction book it is and how you know. So be sure to read the historical fiction part in Module 5, and this just needs to be about 2 to 3 sentences. And then you're going to evaluate it. So nonfiction can be evaluated in 3 things: if it's accurate, the engagement, and visual techniques that it uses to grab its audience. So using the ideas from our text, which is, of course, you will gather all of that from your reading organizer, which is due this week on Tuesday. You will then evaluate nonfiction with the 3 criteria: accuracy, 2 to 3 sentences, engagement, 2 to 3 sentences, and visual techniques. So you can use examples here. It does not have to be real long, but just gives me the basis that you understand each one of these areas that we use to evaluate nonfiction books. Then you'll tell me the type of student or reader who would want to read this book. Describe the student you would recommend this book for and why. So maybe you have a person in your life that you know who would love a book like this, or just a general student. But really give me some characteristics of a student that would really like and be engaged with one of these stories. And then, of course, please attach an image of your book. It must be a book that you have in hand or a digital reader, Kindle, or an e-reader of some type. As we know, no digital images just from the internet will be accepted. Please make your post by Thursday, and don't forget to respond to your classmates no later than Sunday. You want to scoop up those 2 participation points. Okay, jumping back, that's really that is all we have going on this week. Of course, I forgot to mention in the start, we do have a reading organizer due on nonfiction informational reading. Please get that completed. And so the rest of your week really should be focused on your read aloud project. We are coming down towards the end of our read aloud. You should be working on your hours, coming close to being finished. And in your hours, each week you should be reflecting in your journal. So every time you meet, you should be doing this reflection. A quick summary of the observation and participation. What did you see and do with your reader? This does not have to be a novel every time you meet. It's just 3 to 5 sentences on the observation, the participation with the student. What did you see the student do? What did you do to get them to participate, to get them to be engaged? So just how it went overall in that time period. Sometimes you're going to have a lot to write. Sometimes lots of things happen where you will be able to write more than 3 to 5 sentences. Other times it was a pretty standard meeting, not a whole lot to write, and I get that. So just on those times when it was really detailed and lots of stuff happened, tell me. On those other times, that's just fine. And then reflection and insight. What went well? Tell me, what did you do? Maybe you're in a groove now and you know what's going to go well every time. So just say, this is going well, it's continuing to go well. What could have gone better? Kids are kids. Every day is going to be different. They're going to have fabulous days where they're very engaged, and they're going to have other days where they're not. Maybe they have something going on at school that they're thinking about. Maybe they aren't feeling well. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they're excited for something that's coming that next day or so or whatever. So be understanding of that. How could it get better next time if they were really distracted? What ideas did you like? Maybe you sparked a cool conversation. Maybe you saw, maybe something happened that you weren't expecting, but it went really well, or maybe it didn't. And then if there are any questions or concerns were raised, this would be, did your reader, if your reader had a bad day, for example, maybe question, why do you think they had the bad day? Was it something that you did, something that you didn't prepare for? Were they feeding off of your energy possibly? Maybe you're having a bad day. That can happen too. We're all human. Or maybe you recognize that it could have gone better and the concern is that they were distracted, that the environment wasn't really set up to be positive for that experience that day. So how can you fix that? That you're not going to have questions and concerns every single time you meet, but when you do, this is a great place to include that. So each one of these little summaries and reflections should be about 3 to 5 sentences. Again, on certain days it's going to be more, and certain days it's going to be less, but do be detailed. Do give me your insights of what happened. This is to help you. This is to help you in your reflection as to what you're doing well, what you can change next time, how you can reach the needs of the reader, and understanding that they are humans just like us, so they have hard days and they have great days. So if you have any questions about that or you're running into any issues, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to talk to you about whatever you're experiencing. Okay, so that's really where you should be putting your focus right now, is just completing your reading hours, completing your journal. As we look ahead, let's see, your Read Aloud project has 2 other parts. It has the literacy bag, which is going to be here. I have not talked to you too much about the literacy bag. So this is what you have to do. It is pretty intensive. So once you've completed your journals, you're ready then to focus on the literacy bag. So for this assignment, there's a few parts to it. You need to choose one book that you read during your Read Aloud time. If you're reading with younger readers, you're probably reading lots of picture books. Just choose one. If you're reading a chapter book with one of your readers, maybe you've read 1 or 2, choose the one that was your favorite or your reader's favorite. The first thing you have to do is create a curriculum map. This is kind of the idea behind it, is you are going to base a whole unit off of the one book that you're focusing on. So a whole unit means all the different types of curriculum, math, science, ELA, social studies, all of those things are curriculum. So you need to create a map that has 2 lessons for each of the curriculum, or 2 activities for each subject area. So your map has to include a minimum of 5 subject areas. This is math, English or ELA, science, social studies, and then you can do one such as art or drama, or even maybe PE or music, something like that. So those should be the 5 subject areas that you're considering. And then you need to pick 2 activities for each. So 2 activities you would do for math related to the book, 2 activities related to science that you would base off of the book, and so on. So all the activities need to be tied in somehow to the subject matter of the book. Now, this is not necessarily something that you might think is easy to do, but it is. So for example, if you are doing a children's book and it is about ladybugs, you could have a ladybug counting activity. You could have an activity where maybe you go outside and gather up things on a nature walk. Now I'm thinking for younger children. So really it just needs to be more of a theme that is surrounded by each of those subject areas. It is a loosely tied theme. So just imagine it as a big theme unit where each of the subject areas are somehow loosely tied to the book. So I recommend using Popplet. Popplet is great. You can see here, you can put your subject area in the middle, such as the book. We'll see, 5 lovely ladybugs in the middle here. And then for each subject area, you would put science, for example, and then 2 activities. Math, 2 activities. ELA, 2 activities, and so on. I'm not signed in right now to Popplet, but you do need to log in. It's free. You just create an account and then share it with me. So do make sure that you have the share settings, that it's not set to private, and then you just insert the link back into Canvas, and I will be able to get that. The next part is the actual book card. So once you've created the Popplet, if you would rather create another map of some other type, not using Popplet, you certainly do not have to. It's just a really cool tool. If you want to write it out, as long as it's neat and I can really read it, I'm happy with that. Take a picture and submit it. If there's another online tool that you prefer, that's fine. So just make sure that the link is shared or that you have a very clean, neat copy of a handwritten activity or a handwritten map and then a picture of that. The next piece is a book card. Okay, so the book card is kind of like a really in-depth lesson plan, if you will, based off the book. So you have now created your Popplet or your curriculum map that has been based off of the book. You've got 5 subject areas with 2 activities for each subject area. Now you're going to pick your favorite activity from the curriculum map. So say you have an awesome science activity that's directly tied to the book, and out of all of them, they're your favorite. Choose that. So that activity is going to then be put into a book card. So the template is below here. There is an example. There is an example here. So this is just an example of what your book card should look like. The template is going to look just like this, except there's no answers filled in. So in the book card, you put your title of the book, you put the author, illustrator, publication date, the grade that the book is designed for, and so forth. Then you're going to write a brief synopsis of the book. It needs to be written in your own words. You are then going to find your favorite section of the book or giving a favorite quote. This should be a direct in-text citation from the book. Give me the page number it can be found on. Then you're going to come up with some questions that you would be working with your students to ask. Comprehension questions. So these are questions based on information from the story. There is a right answer and a wrong answer, okay? So this would be, do your students understand the book and what is happening? Are they comprehending it? So some examples might be, how old is Maria Isabel? And they should be able to tell you that. What is Maria Isabel's greatest wish? Well, that would have been really obvious in the book. So they should be able to tell you that based on the fact that they've read it. Now, discussion questions are a little bit more open-ended. There isn't necessarily right or wrong. This is going to give them that time to really dig in and be able to think more abstractly. So these questions should leave room for interpretation. They may ask students to prompt students to make connections between life experiences and the text. So some examples would be, why was Maria Isabel upset about being called Mary? Okay, so it might say so in the book, but they might be able to draw some examples there, maybe give some more discussion on it. How might the teacher have handled things differently to make Maria Isabel feel more welcome? Maybe they've had experiences in their life where they didn't feel welcome and they could draw upon that. In what way is Maria Isabel's family similar or different to your family? So these are all areas in which they are able to draw from their own personal experiences and make a connection. So these are the questions that you have to really think about that would help your students be engaged in the story and make meaning of the story personally. Okay, everybody, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to create my second screencast to be able to go over the curriculum connections below and unpack Module 6. I'll see you in my next screencast. Thank you.